The death of fiat currency is inevitable. When that day comes for the dollar, gold won't be an investment, it will be the ultimate financial safeguard. Imagine our current monetary system as a massive Ponzi scheme nearing its inevitable end. Central banks are frantically printing more currency, governments are drowning in debt, and the writing on the wall couldn't be clearer. We're fast approaching a currency reset. But here's the kicker. The reset hasn't happened yet. The tower hasn't toppled, and somehow the system is still limping along, gasping its last breath, and that's exactly why this moment is so crucial. In this video, we'll discuss the warning signs ahead, why gold stands as the ultimate safe haven asset, and why it's crucial to protect yourself by holding gold today. A currency reset is one of the greatest threats to our financial security, and it's happening right now in the United States. But a revaluation or significant devaluation of a fiat currency such as the US dollar doesn't happen overnight. No, it starts quietly at first and ends in chaos with people losing everything. All currency resets start with fiat currency control. If a government can ensure that its citizens are not only using a fiat currency for daily transactions, but storing their savings in a fiat currency, then there is no way for people to protect themselves against confiscation through inflation. Inflation, which of course is created by an extreme escalation of government debt. Alan Greenspan, a former Federal Reserve chairman, once said, "Deficit spending is simply a scheme for the confiscation of wealth." Let that sink in. Tell me what you think he meant in the comments below. I'll tell you what I think he meant. Wealth doesn't disappear, it just changes hands. In this very moment, your wealth is being chipped away at and confiscated by the US government through inflation. As more cash is printed, each unit of currency is worth less. What's different about this moment in time is the rate at which it's happening. In the last 5 years, our national debt has increased by $13 trillion. During that same period of time, we have lost over 25% of our purchasing power. And we're now on track to add another $1 trillion in government debt every 100 days. Each time $1 trillion is added, that represents more of your wealth being taken. Since the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, the dollar has lost over 96% of its purchasing power. As this process continues to speed up, it moves us closer to the next stage of a currency reset: hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is, of course, an even more extreme rise in the cost of goods and services, close to 50% or more. Picture Weimer Germany following World War I, Venezuela, Argentina. In Hungary in 1946, hyperinflation was so bad, the prices were doubling every 15 hours. Everyone in those situations who held their wealth in their country's fiat currency lost everything. But we, you and I, can look at history, take control, and make sure that we're not in that same position. In fact, it might surprise you to learn that no fiat currency has ever existed indefinitely. In fact, every single fiat currency, even ones who have existed for an extended period of time, have all faced a devaluation or a reset. And the US dollar is no different. But what is different about the US dollar is its privileged position as the global reserve currency. This status allows the dollar historically to have high demand, to maintain trust and stability, and to allow the United States economic policy to play out without serious consequence. The United States can run large deficits. They can rack up $35 trillion in national debt because there is a demand. Should that demand drop, and suddenly financing that deficit is going to be near impossible, which would create massive amounts of inflation and subsequently an immediate devaluation of the dollar. The dollar is living on borrowed time. time that is running out. As the United States continues to create this unsustainable debt burden at the same time that it weaponizes the US dollar as a political tool of power, the rest of the world is aligning, laser focused on de-dollarization, finding ways to reduce any reliance on using the US dollar as the reserve currency and as the currency of international trade. As these efforts increase, the threat of entering a hyperinflationary period increases with it. Some would say that those in power already know that this is happening, hence the refusal to stop the government spending. When the dollar collapses, when there's no value left, and yes, I say when, not if, very intentionally, because as we just learned, no fiat currency has ever existed forever. So when the dollar loses close to all of its value, that is when the new solution will be ushered in. It could be either a re-evaluation of the dollar's value with the government decreeing a new value. What once was $100,000 is now only worth $1,000. We've seen this before in countries like Argentina. They call it lopping off zeros, artificially creating a new value for the currency. We could also see a new currency altogether ushered in, a complete reset of the system, benefiting those who were prepared and decimating those who refuse to see the warning signs. Many speculate that this is when a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, will be ushered in as the savior, the soft landing that saved the United States. But in reality, you and I know that the day that a CBDC launches is the day that we lose our privacy and all of our financial freedoms. If we're concerned about how to protect ourselves and position ourselves, not just for today, but through a currency reset, we have to look and understand what has been successful for those who have lived through one and not only maintained their wealth, but prospered during a period of time where the majority of people who were unprepared lost everything. There are many examples to choose from, but one of the most well-known is Weimer, Germany. In 1918, one loaf of bread cost you 1 German mark. 5 years later, in 1923, that same one loaf of bread cost 200 billion marks. Could you imagine 5 years from now buying a loaf of bread for $200 billion? How would you afford that? You think it's hard now? Imagine trying to feed your family in those conditions. You wouldn't be able to. Now, during this same 5-year period, if we look at silver, silver maintained its value. But gold, 1 ounce of gold in 1918 could buy you roughly 170 loaves of bread. That same 1 ounce of gold in 1923, 5 years later, could buy you 435 loaves of bread. People who held gold were not only protected, but they actually came out the other side in prosperity. This is why central banks around the world are buying gold in record numbers, because they understand that time is limited and that gold will be what provides them true wealth on the other side. Listen, there are going to be those out there who don't understand what it is we're preparing for, and that's all right, because we aren't just looking at today or tomorrow. We're not just focused on the stock market. We are looking at the big macroeconomic picture. And that's why the smartest people I know already understand this concept and are holding gold, because they know what's coming next. Now, more than ever, is the time to hold on tight to your gold, to your insurance policy, because what we're preparing for hasn't fully happened yet. Yes, it has more than started. Yes, it is currently in progress, but you know as well as I do, and I hate to be the one to say it, it is only going to get worse. If this concerns you, or you feel vulnerable and you want to get a second look at the strategy that you've already created, I highly recommend that you talk to one of our expert analysts. Here at ITM, we study this. We understand currency life cycles. Even if you already feel like you have a solid position, still schedule that call and talk to our team to make sure. We understand these concepts, and we are in the business of helping people, making sure that everyone has a strategy in place to get them through this cycle. And if you have a loved one right now who doesn't understand what's going on and is too focused on the smaller components of our economy versus that big macroeconomic picture, please feel free to share this video with them. There's strength in numbers. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'm Taylor Kenney with ITM Trading, your trusted source for all things gold, silver, and lifelong wealth protection. Until next time.